I'm Bill Kiefer, and I'm talking to you in March of 2015. And thinking back, and I'd like to commemorate my great aunt, what is my grandmother's, on my father's side, sister, Alice HEBEBRAND. That was her last name after being married, and her maiden name is HARTZEL. And she had a few sisters. She had sisters of my grandmother, HAZEL, and then Violet, and then Grace, and then Pearl. So she had a few. I had to think there for a second. All the sisters that she had, and she was born in Pennsylvania. Kiefer. If you look up for Kiefers, most of all Kiefers come from Pennsylvania. What they did is, as everybody knows, the immigration from the Germans came here to the United States, and a lot of them just settled in the state of Pennsylvania. It's a German town in Pennsylvania, in Pittsburgh. German. As a matter of fact, we were just 2 votes away from Congress. They said, what are we going to make, in the colonies, what are we going to make our official language? And English won by 2 votes. Had those 2 votes swung, we'd be speaking German today. Isn't that interesting? So I want to talk about my Aunt Alice. She was just a wonderful lady. She was born in March of 1898. March of 1898. And she died March of 1987. And she was born on March 17th, St. Patty's Day. And my daughter and my granddaughter, we've always celebrated with corned beef and cabbage, traditional for the Irish Day, and green beer. Get some green food coloring and tincture beer. And Aunt Alice, although she wasn't of Irish descent, definitely from Germany, we'd like to say thank you, Aunt Alice. She was just a pleasant lady. She had married a man and lived most of her life in Ohio, or the Cleveland area, and she married a nice guy, a very wealthy man. And back in the day, in the 20s and 30s, that she would go to Havana, Cuba with him, and they would just party hardy. I've got a lot of pictures. I don't have any more, but I had pictures of her sitting in different bars with her husband in Havana, and they had some money, and I was told they were a little connected with the mob. She said, "Oh yeah, they had plenty of money." I think it had to do with prohibition and all that stuff. So anyhow, she divorced him after a while because they didn't get along. And all the time that I knew her in California, where she moved to be, and her sisters, Hazel, my grandmother, and Violet, they all hung around the same area, Azusa, Covina in California. And when I first came back out there in 1960 to actually live in Azusa, and then we all hung out, and she was a LPN at Covina Community Hospital, and she and I got along well. As a matter of fact, one time after she retired, she said, I'd like to go back and visit my sister Pearl in Miami, Florida. Would you drive me? And I was 16 at the time, so we got approval. My parents said okay. So I drove my Aunt Alice and a young cousin. She was 21, 22, and her name happened to be Alice. She was named after my great aunt's name, and I drove them both myself. I drove them to Miami, Florida, to be with Aunt Pearl, and I was supposed to then fly back, and then my Aunt Alice had a change of heart and wanted to come back to California, so her and I drove back from Miami, Florida, back to Los Angeles. I did that all when I was 16, and that was in 1962 during the break. We left on January 1st of 1962, and it took a couple of weeks. Went back there, and then back to California again. It was quite a treat for me to drive all those miles at 16 with my aunt that was 65, 66, and a young 21-year-old cousin. And it was just interesting. But Aunt Alice was a real hoot, and in her final days, I invited her to spend the final days with us at our home in Pomona. And the picture you see is of Aunt Alice and Tina, my daughter, and Sue, my wife, who passed away in 2000. And Aunt Alice sitting around our table, dining room table in our home, one of our first big home in Pomona, California. So I'm Bill Kiefer. I in Bigoran to you, or whatever Irish sayings they might have. I'm not Irish, so I don't know. But anyways, Aunt Alice, we love you. You are a great person in heaven, and you were a great person all your life. You were just special to me. So happy birthday, Aunt Alice. I'm Bill Kiefer. Until next time, remember, keep family family. Bye for now.